I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. 18 years after the 9/11 attacks, we look at one of its most notorious and enduring legacies, Guantanamo Bay. India begins building detention centers for people who aren't included on its national register. A court in Scotland says the UK government acted illegally when it decided to take its current break. And in Animals Doing Stuff, we present a very little dog carrying a very big stick. At the top of our newsfeed, 9/11 and Guantanamo Bay. The United States was attacked 18 years ago and then set up a prison in Cuba to hold people captured from all over the world as part of its so-called war on terror. That detention center is outside the US justice system, meaning people there have no legal protections. Many have been tortured, several have died, and most have been held without trial.
Terrorists who once occupied Afghanistan now occupy cells at Guantanamo Bay.
In order to effect the appropriate disposition of individuals currently detained by the Department of Defense at Guantanamo, and promptly to close the detention facility at Guantanamo consistent with the national security and foreign policy interests of the United States and the interests of justice, I hereby order. And we then provide the process whereby Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now.
It is true that I have not been able to close the darn thing.
I just signed, prior to walking in, an order directing Secretary Mattis to re-examine our military detention policy and to keep open the detention facilities in Guantanamo Bay. No?
Well, one of those people who faced trial on the 11th of January is Ammar al-Baluchi. We heard from his lawyer, who says some pretty amazing things about the close relations between America's CIA and its film industry.
Around 2011, Hollywood filmmakers approached the Department of Defense and the CIA asking for information about the CIA black sites. The DoD and the CIA, as part of a public relations campaign, provided information to the Hollywood filmmakers. What's so incredible about that is that those Hollywood filmmakers had access to information about Ammar al-Baluchi's torture that we as his defense counsel still don't have. The movie Zero Dark 30, which came out of that public relations campaign, features for the first 30 minutes the torture of a man in the movie called Amar. They had such incredible detail in that movie, and I'll give you an example. One of the torturers of Amar, who was a psychologist, wrote a book, and in that book he talks about how they conditioned the prisoners through the torture, just as if you would condition a dog to sit down while you serve its meal. One of the things that they conditioned Amar was to stay on his prayer mat. And they talk about that in the movie. They say, if you leave that mat, I beat you, which is what they did. And to this day, in 2019, Amar will not leave that mat. The first thing he does when he comes to a meeting with his attorney is set up his mat. The first thing he does when he gets up in the morning is sit on his mat. And that's the kind of detail that Hollywood had access to that we never get that information from the government. The government provides us with watered-down substitutes for that information, saying that the original information is too secret for even his own lawyers in a death penalty case to know. Amar al-Baluchi is an incredible artist. One of the ways that he occupied his time at Guantanamo Bay was by creating art. His most well-known artwork is called Vertigo at Guantanamo and is a complex and beautiful abstract painting which was intended to convey to his lawyers and others what it feels like to have a traumatic brain injury, what it feels like to get sucked into a vortex of confusion, lack of memory, and inability to process the world around him. When I first met Amar al-Baluchi, I asked him, I'm a lawyer, my job is to represent your case, what do you want? And his number 2 goal was to have the charges against him dismissed. His number 1 goal was to receive treatment for his torture. And so the question comes up, why is the United States still holding these prisoners, right? 18 years after 9/11, why do we still have a Guantanamo Bay? The answer to that is really policy inertia. No one in the United States has the political will to solve the problem of Guantanamo. And so it just rolls, it just coasts from administration to administration to administration. I think that the United States policy seems to be to just wait until these men die of natural causes.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. A Facebook event that hoped to rally millions of people to storm a US military base in search of evidence of the existence of aliens has been cancelled by one of the creators. Storm Area 51 was due to happen next week, but the organizer, Matty Roberts, says the event, which he tried to turn into a music festival as well as a voyage of discovery, must be called off. He's closed the page as far as we can see, but will that stop people from turning up? Guess we'll have to wait and see. A man called Jeffrey Boycott, who played cricket pretty well for England in the 70s and then was convicted of assaulting his girlfriend in the 90s, is due to be knighted by Britain next year. Charities that work to reduce violence against women have condemned the award. Boycott has always denied that he assaulted his former girlfriend. Sir Kim Darroch, who quit as UK ambassador to the United States after leaked emails showed he described Donald Trump as inept, has been rewarded by being made a Lord. He'll take his seat in the unelected UK House of Lords on October the 14th. And this is a rapper called Timati. He says he's Vladimir Putin's bestie, and his latest song has broken the record for the most dislikes of a single video on Russian YouTube. Needless to say, the video has been taken down. Now, the Indian government has begun building detention centres in Assam. They'll hold people who are not included on the National Citizens Register. Now, 1.5 million people aren't on that list, and there's concern where some of them could be headed.
पैरासैनिक होता है ना, और नाम नहीं आता है तो हम लोग तो थोड़ा पैरासैनिक होता है ना, और किस लिए नहीं आता है वही तो।
हम नहीं आए हैं तो हम क्या करेंगे, हम तो सरकार के फार्मूला पर हम इंतज़ार है। सरकार अगर उसका कोई इंतज़ाम कर दे, फार्मूला आसान फार्मूला है, बता दिया तो निकाल दे तो हमको अच्छा होगा। हम तो उसी के फिक्र में है कि उसका नाम कैसे ठीक हो जाए, आ जाए।
We are not running after the number, but we have expected more. And for that we are not happy.
And we will keep spinning around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. A court in Scotland says that the UK government acted unlawfully when it decided to prorogue Parliament. Politicians are on a forced 5-week break during one of the most important moments in modern British history. The Scottish court ruled the decision to prorogue had, and these are the exact words, the improper purpose of stymieing Parliament. Boris Johnson wants to reduce the amount of time that MPs have to try to stop him forcing the UK to leave the EU without a deal. The Scottish court's ruling will be tested by the English Supreme Court next week. The White House is accused of using a marker pen to alter a weather map so it would fit misinformation President Trump put out on Twitter. He said that Hurricane Dorian would hit Alabama. The tweet was quickly corrected by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Now it's being reported that the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross threatened to sack people from that organization for contradicting the president. An Iranian woman who became known as the Blue Girl after images of her dressed as a man sneaking to a football stadium to watch her favorite team play has died. Saha Khodayari set herself alight outside a courthouse when she was told she may spend 6 months in prison for her actions. In Iran, it's illegal for a woman to dress as a man and for a woman to go to a football match. The Japanese government is planning to dump radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. The water has been used to cool the reactor core and stop it from melting down. It was damaged in 2011 after an earthquake and ensuing tsunami. The factory will run out of space to store the waste in 2022, but the Environment Minister, Yoshiaka Harada, says he has a simple solution: empty the water into the ocean. Environmental groups, fishermen and neighbouring countries are outraged. A German village council recently elected a neo-Nazi as mayor, but after the news spread around the country and the world, German politicians are calling for the decision to be reversed. The man's name is Stefan Jaksch, and he's a member of the National Democratic Party. Councillors unanimously voted for him, saying he's good at sending emails. Apparently his computer skills trump his politics. Now, women are underrepresented in most aspects of society, notably in politics, business and science. And it's with that in mind that a board game called Ms. Monopoly has been launched. At the start of the game, female players are given more money than men to redress the gender pay gap, and the available investments are invented by women. Apparently, Ms. Monopoly is old Mr. Monopoly's niece, in case you were wondering. And last up, some video from what's fast becoming one of the Newsfeed team's favourite follows. It's an account called Bosco and his big stick. And it's all about this little dog, Bosco, and his sometimes successful attempts at carrying a big stick. There you go, can't get through those two posts. For reasons, he carries that big stick that only he could explain. Now, he's a sausage dog, as you can see, and he's intent on carrying a stick that is way too big for him. But maybe there's a message in it for all of us, something to do with biting off more than you can chew or punching above your weight. Whatever, one thing we can agree on, Bosco and his big stick, pretty cute. And that'll do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel and you can follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.